then become your husband. Lord Vishnu will love you more dearly than his own life, and without your presence, all puja will be fruitless. By my boon, becoming the presiding deity of all the trees, you will freely enjoy unlimited happiness in the constant association of Lord Vishnu. Interesting, when Srimati Radharani gives a trust, and it brings so many benedictions and great fortune to those. Whereas if we were to give a trust, then we'd be simply wanting the person to suffer. Sankajuta also received his desired boon from Lord Brahma. He got knowledge sufficient to make the shield of virtue, and the benediction that is long as the chastity, no one could kill him. It's understood in Vedic terms that a chaste wife protects her husband materially, literally. Thus becoming very arrogant, he began to terrorize all the demigods and human beings. Lord Shiva, being requested by the demigods, went personally to fight with Sankajuta. Meanwhile, Lord Vishnu made a plan to destroy the chastity of Tulsi. He went to the place where Lord Shiva was fighting with the demon, assuming the form of a brahmin. He asked Sankajuta to protect the shield in charity. When the Lord had deceived Tulsi considerably her in this way, he began to go without until he was herself protecting and rest with chastity. The HG Prabhupada goes to great lengths to point out that there was certainly no fault on Vishnu's part. He wanted to maintain the benediction of both the Lord Brahma and Sankajuta, and at the same time he wanted to protect the demigods and devotees. For this purpose he gave them a particular pastime of appearing certain part of the deity. But since Tulsi is eternally forced with black deity, she is actually the one for Vishnu. She is actually Sankajuta with the one who actually is improperly connected. At that very moment, Lord Shiva killed Sankajuta on the battlefield. When Tulsi understood all that happened, she said, "By deceiving me, you have written a past where you killed my husband. Perhaps it destroyed my husband. Thus I cause you to remain on earth as a stone." Lord Shiva said, "For many years you underwent very difficult penances to achieve me. At the same time, Sankajuta has also done severe penances to get me. As a result of his austerity, he enjoyed you as his wife and has now gone to Goloka. Now you will get the fruit of your penances. Leaving this mortal body and taking a divine form, you will also reign with me with you. Your present body shall turn into the living Gandhati, and from your beard will grow many trees famous as Tulasi. If you fill your trust, there will become stone, Shaladam Shila, and will always live on the banks of the Gandhati river. The millions of worms who live in that place will adorn these stones with the signs of the chakra by carrying them with sharp teeth." After this, Lord Vishnu began to dwell perpetually in the waters of the Gandhati river and its streams. Prana warns that if one worships the Shaladam Shila and doesn't offer Tulsis, then his life is considered equal to Vishnu. There, Sri Narayana says it is impossible to explain the thoughts of Tulsis unless it is Shaladam Shila. Whereas he is most beloved concept of coming in the form of Shaladam Shila. So this is a good summary. Whatever elaborate worship we do, for Shaladam Shila, Tulsi and Tulsi. Shaladam Shila is satisfied with sometimes his water and Tulsi is. That's the basis of it. Okay, so now we have Sri Nambakacharya. Sri Nambakacharya preached Krishna consciousness about 300 years before the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In Navadvip Mahatmya, Sri Bhagavatam Thakur says that Nambaka had previously worshipped Lord Shiva in Vaivakarcha, Udradvip, Navadvip. So Navadvip means Udradvip is one of them, which is the island pertaining to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva appeared before Nimbarka and instructed him to take initiation from the 4 Kumaras who were meditating nearby. Nimbarka received Radha Krishna mantra and continued living in Navadvip. Following the teachings of the Sanat Kumara Samhita, he worshipped Radha and Krishna with great love. Soon Radha and Krishna appeared before Nimbarka. Then the divine couple displayed their unified form as Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Lord Gauranga said, Nimbarka, in the future, when I begin my Sankirtan movement, I will personally preach the perfect transcendental philosophy of Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. I will take the essence of the philosophies of Madhva, Ramanuja, and Vishnuswami. From you, Nimbarka, I shall take two important principles. One, the necessity of taking shelter of Srimati Radharani, and two, the high esteem of the Vraja Gopis' love for Sri Krishna. Lord Gauranga disappeared after instructing Nimbarka. Shedding tears of ecstasy, Nimbarka left Navadvip to begin his preaching mission. In Chaitanya Leela, Nimbarka appeared as Keshava Kashmiri and received love of Godhead directly from Nimai Pandit. There are striking similarities between the Gaudiyas and the Nimbarkas. The followers of Nimbarka accept the 6 forms of surrender, practice the 9 limbs of Bhakti, and believe in the dasa mula, or 10 cardinal points of Gaudiya philosophy. They also worship Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. They worship Srimati Radharani as the topmost devotee, and they accept the gopis' love for Krishna as supreme. With beads, bhajan, and kirtan, the Nimbarkas chant their version of the Mahamantra. In Vrindavan, about 1 mile from Govardhan, there is the village of Nimgwan, named after Nimbarkacharya. So Nim would be Nimbarka, and Gwan is like gram, or village, like Shalagram. Nimbarkacharya lived there from childhood and later performed pastimes there. Many of Radha Krishna's pastime places in Vrindavan are now maintained by the Nimbarka sect. In Mathura, Vrindavan, innumerable devotees follow Nimbarka's path of bhakti. The Shriji Mandir, just off Loy Bazaar in Vrindavan, serves as the centre of Nimbarka Sampradaya. So although it is a bona fide Sampradaya, then we don't actually, we don't get involved. Because we have our own Brahma. Different Sampradayas, so, and this is the Sampradaya which we are in, so as to avoid confusion. Sometimes devotees, they go in here outside of ISKCON and they get confused. And then they no longer remain faithful to the line which Srila Prabhupada has given us. So that Prabhupada did warn against this hearing outside of ISKCON. If someone is actually very fixed up, thank you, then they may be here and be unaffected. But we see that people who sometimes think they're fixed up, they go and hear from someone else, and before you know it, they're walking around with turbans and lungis and growing their hair and wearing big chunky neck beads, all sorts of stylish things. And we see this is quite superficial. Or people may dress in whatever style they like. Internally is what is important, of course, but if we were following Srila Prabhupada, then he wanted us to present ourselves in a certain way, because that is the mission which we're which is benefiting us, and out of reciprocation, then we serve that mission. So this is here still on the subject of smelling the incense and flowers offered to the deity. Have not been reading the Nectar of Devotion recently? Huh? Oh, I see, right, okay. Must be, have you read from touching the deity yet? You have? Seeing the deity? Okay, no harm in going over it again. Repetition is the mother of learning. So, Nectar of Devotion, further consideration of devotional principles, seeing the deity. In the Varaha Purana, there's a statement praising the seeing of the deity of Sri Krishna in the temple. A devotee says there, my dear Vrajasundara, any person who goes to Vrindavan and sees the deity of Govindadev is free from the courthouse of Yamaraj and is allowed to enter into the highest planetary system in which reside the demigods. This means that even an ordinary person who goes to Vrindavan out of inquisitiveness and by chance sees the temple, especially that of Govindadev, even if he is not elevated to the spiritual kingdom, is still assured promotion to the higher planetary systems. This means that simply by visiting the deity of Govinda in Vrindavan, one becomes highly elevated in pious life. So just a couple of points there that I could share. Srila Prabhupada says that if one witnesses a devotee performing devotional service, they're automatically raised to the mode of goodness. You find that in first canto. And also there was the devotees in Seoul Street occasionally see this Chinese man visiting the temple, and he would sit in front of the deities all day. He wouldn't say anything, he would just sit there looking at them all day. So after this happened a few times, the devotees asked him, why he came to the temple, and he said because he just sits in front of the altar and he absorbs all the energy, and then that he feels spiritually elevated, and that keeps him going for about a month, and then he comes back to recharge again. So with doing nothing other than taking darshan, he's actually, according to Nectar of Devotion, he's at least gone to the higher planetary systems. See Nectar of Devotion key. So we're still in 7th canto. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 10, Text 7. Yadi esodasyasi me kaman tvam varadarshaba kamanam varam tvam varadarshaba kamanam hridi asamroham kamanam hridya samroham bhavatas tu vrine varam bhavatas tu vrine varam yadidasyasi me kaman varam tvam varadarshaba kamanam hridayam kamanam hridya samroham bhavatas tu vrine varam yadidasyami me kaman varam tvam varadarshaba kamanam hridya samroham bhavatas tu vrine varam yadidasyasi me kaman varam tvam varadarshaba kamanam hridya samroham bhavatas tu vrine varam. So just a little tip for you. See this third line, kamanam hridi asamroham. So the Y it connects. So like those two words there connect like hridya samroham. So the Y, the following vowel, that becomes almost like one word. Hridya samroham. Okay, give it a try. Anybody? Yadidas. Yadidasyasi me kaman varam tvam varadarshaba Kamanavridya samsoham Bhavatastu vinevaram Yadida shashime kaman Varamsam Varadarshaba Kamanavridya samroham Bhavatastu vinevaram Yadida shashime kaman Varamsam Varadarshaba Kamanamridya samroham Bhavatastu vinevaram. Very good. Yahdi. If das you see, want to give, may me kaman, anything desirable. Varan is your benediction. Tvam, you. Varada Rishaba, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can give any benediction. Kamanam, of all desires from pure happiness. Rudi, within the core of my heart. Samroham, no growth. Bhavata, from you. To, then. Vrine, I pray for. Varam, such a benediction. Translation, O my Lord, best of the givers of benediction, if you at all want to bestow a desirable benediction upon me, then I pray from your Lordship that within the core of my heart there will be no material desires. Please repeat, O my Lord, best of the givers of benediction, if you at all want to bestow a desirable benediction upon me, then I pray from your Lordship that within the core of my heart there will be no material desires. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us how to pray for benedictions from the Lord. He said, Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadish Kamaye Mamajan Manijan Manishvare Bhavatad Bhakti Rautiki Tui. O my Lord, I do not want from you any amount of wealth, nor many followers, nor beautiful wife, for these are all materialistic desires. But if I have to ask you for any benediction, I pray that in whatever forms of life I may take my birth under any circumstances, I will not be bereft of your transcendental devotional service. Devotees are always on the positive platform in contrast to the Mayavadis who want to make everything impersonal or void. One cannot remain void, shunyavadi. Rather, one must possess something. Therefore, the devotee on the positive side want to possess something, and this possession is very nicely described by Prahlad Maharaj, who says, if I must take some benediction from you, I pray that within the core of my heart there may be no material desires. This desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not at all material. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Slakaya Chakramilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagate Grim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Grim Dinitaranam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. O my Lord, best of the givers of benediction, if you at all want to bestow a desirable benediction upon me, then I pray from your Lordship that within the core of my heart there will be no material desires. So here Srila Prabhupada goes right into this verse from the Shikshastakam. Does anybody here memorize the Shikshastakam? So I'd advise that you do. You probably know one of the verses. Which one do you think you might know? Yep. So everybody knows that. Trinada Peace in Chana. Now it's important to learn this because we can see the whole process of Krishna consciousness is given by Lord Chaitanya in these 8 verses, where from the very beginning of cleansing the heart, right through to unconditional surrender to Krishna, and all the different stages are mentioned. And this is a good barometer also when we see this Nadinam Najinam Nasundarim. I don't want wealth women or followers, or wealth men and followers, or whatever happens to be your fancy of the day. Then if we are still on that platform, then we can understand, okay, I'm not on the platform of pure devotional service, because here it says, I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. Mama Janmani Janmanishwari, Bhavatad, Bhaktiroi Takitui. So Janmani Janmanishwari, birth after birth. So this is something that we are aiming for. We know this is actually where we're heading, develop pure love of God beyond the love for anything else, temporary or anyone else. Because what is that love in this material world going to bring? Jainanda, what's that love going to bring? Love for something material world, is it going to bring lasting happiness? Temporary. And what does it usually end in? Tears, isn't it? And I've mentioned a few times an experience that I had doing door to door. Met this old man who was extremely distressed. I mean, to pour your heart out to a stranger on your doorstep, then it shows you, how distressed he was. He lost his wife a year before. They had the perfect marriage, married for 50 or 60 years, never fought, loved each other deeply, and then she passed away. He said, if I could just have had one more year, and I thought, this is just typical, isn't it? One more year, one more night, one more minute. But ultimately what happens is, okay, you'd have one more year, but now you'd be suffering that loss. If you lost it a year ago, you'd be suffering that loss today. Or it'd be 10 more years. You're only putting off the inevitable. Better to face up to it now. So this is the great advantage devotees have, is they're not waiting to the end of their life to think, oh no, I wish I'd done something with my life. They're thinking, okay, so far I've wasted my life, let me not waste the rest of it. Let me use it in Krishna's service. This should be what propels us forward. As we see where we came from, we don't want to continue, and we see where we were going, and we think, no, now we're going in a different direction, let's keep going in that direction. Don't become a Vantasi sannyasi. Vantasi sannyasi, everybody knows what that is. Okay, so sometimes if you eat something which doesn't agree with you, just like Mother Parvati, she was disgusted with her father, Daksha, right, when he criticized Lord Shiva. So she found that her association with her father, Daksha, was so unpalatable on account of him insulting Lord Shiva, her husband, that she didn't want to be connected with that body. So the example she gave of when you eat something which is not agreeable, the best thing to do is to throw up. So you get rid of it, get it out, and then you start to feel better. So therefore she took her own life. She performed, no, actually it was sati. Before she was Parvati, she was sati. So therefore that thing known as sati rite came about, which is when people used to get thrown on the funeral pyre of their husbands because they were supposed to be chaste, so you can go and burn with your husband at the same time. That was the social security system in those days for the widows. You could imagine it, if you were a widow. I heard that your husband's died. No, he's still fine, he's all right, he just went away for a wee trip. What's that bad smell coming from your living room? You should imagine, like, the women must have been terrified, if their husband died, they'd do anything to keep their husband alive, because in certain places they were forced into that. But this Sati rite, she performed mystic meditation. She was no ordinary person. She then again took birth as Parvati, so she's none other than Shiva's eternal consort. And by mystic meditation, she was able to set her body in flames and renounce it. So Vantasi sannyasi means, Vantasi means one who eats their own vomit. So if you throw something up and you go back to eat it again, then it's most deplorable. So this is confirmed by the conch, that if we give something up with all good reason and with experience, and then we go back to it again, then that is very foolish. Of course, in Kali Yuga, we can all admit to being very foolish. But still, when we learn these terms, we realize, oh, this is what I'm doing. I'm giving something up, but I'm thinking, maybe there is still something in it. We're going back to it again. Our mind's going back to it. Maybe now that I'm not suffering so much, I can see how to enjoy better in the material world without getting bothered. But then you go back out and it all just snowballs on top of you again every time. There's never a devotee leaves the temple, well, not even the temple, actually leaves the movement or leaves the shelter of Krishna. And they're happier for it. It's not like, oh yeah, I found real happiness in the material world, There's no such thing. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, in the material world, there's only two things of any substance, the jiva and the holy name. Everything else is just endlessly mutable manifestations of the material energy, simply there to keep us chasing the carrot on the stick. But for the devotees, the real carrot is this devotional service without any Dhanam, Janam, Sundarim. So this is typically the attractions of the material world. We want wealth, followers, and somebody to enjoy it with. A king without a queen, they can't really enjoy the kingdom, can they? Or a queen without a king. If you have wealth, then you can't enjoy that wealth on your own. You have to have someone to enjoy it with. And when people have followers, then what is the thing is they just want more and more followers. It's like nowadays, everybody has become so famous, right? On account of social media. And people are killing each other because they're competing for followers. We're seeing this is going on. People are getting stabbed on the street because, they've got more followers than them and they're doing things to disrespect each other. It's like, it's not even real. And who really cares? Who knows each other and who cares? And what's it all based on? So the Lord here is being addressed as the best of givers of benediction, which means he can give the benedictions which no one else can give. So in Nepal, there's a temple high up in the mountains called Muktinath. And that Mukti means liberation. So he's the Lord of liberation. He can award liberation. The demigods cannot award liberation. They can give some temporary material awards because that's in their remit. But they don't have the ability, unless they become pure devotees themselves and direct people on the path of devotion service. They cannot free one from the material world themselves. So therefore, the best benediction that living entity can get is Sarva Upakar. So Upakar means highly meritorious work, pious deeds, to attain some good fortune. But the Sarva Upakar, or of all benedictions, or of all pious work, then the highest is actually to spread this Yuga Dharma, Harinam Sankirtan. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, let's see if I can remember the Bengali. Sarvadharman Sar. Of all religious principles, the highest religious principle is the chanting of the holy name loudly. So he says loudly because he's not meaning that we should just retire into a cave or into a council flat and just shut ourselves off from the rest of the world and just chant for ourselves. He says the essence of all forms of religion is to loudly chant the holy name. That means we go and give it to others. And Prabhupada refers to his own spiritual master who coined this phrase, the Brihat Madanga. Can anyone tell me what is the Brihat Madanga? What is the big Madanga? Yeah, Brihat Madanga, does it mean like a Madanga which is mic'd up with a big speaker? Big giant PA system. 5 kilowatt PA on a trolley going through Buchanan Street, banging a mridanga. Is that what the Brihat mridanga means? Do you remember? What was Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj referring to? Yeah, that which printed the books, though, was the printing press. They had their own printing press, so he was referring to the printing press as the big mridanga. And so, of course, the books, there's no point in having a printing press without printing the books. It's not, okay, we get a printing press, great, so we've made it now. Nobody's going to hear the printing press unless it prints, and then the books can go far and wide. So that's the thing. Even sometimes these books are referred to as time bombs. People get the books, and the books may sit in the house for some time, or it may sit in a charity shop. It may even sit in a bin or at the bottom of a canal, and then someone finds it. Like there's a story of the devotee in France who went fishing, not as a devotee, because devotees don't do that, but he went fishing, and he was a bit fried in life, and he was at the canal, cast his line, thought he caught something, brought it back up, and it was a shrink-wrapped Bhagavatam, which was still dry inside, and he read it, became a devotee. And of course, there's the story of the devotee who, before he was a devotee, became frustrated and decided he was ending his life. He was walking towards a cliff, just planning to walk over the edge of it and finish it. Something hit his leg. He looked down. It was a part of a page of a Back to Godhead. He sat down, read it, became a devotee. And more than 40 years later, he's still a devotee. And he's done amazing service in different temples. So Krishna says, my devotee will never perish. So Krishna will make these arrangements. Prabhupada called it blanket distribution. Just like some charities, in the winter they go and give out blankets. So by blanket distribution, he didn't mean, we go and give out some blankets along with books. He meant that actually we just cover everywhere with books, so much so it's just blanketed by it. We're not discriminating. Okay, should you get one? Where are you at? No, you're too fallen. No, I don't like the look of your face. I don't think you're suitable for a Bhagavatam. Like, we don't do it with any discrimination. Lord Chaitanya, when he was out on the streets chanting and embracing people, he made no discrimination. And his devotees followed in that. Just like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, prior to being saved by Lord Chaitanya, he was a proud scholar, and he had reason to be proud because he was the most learned scholar in the whole of India at that time. And it was known that he was actually the spiritual master of the demigods, Brihaspati. It wasn't known to people in common then, but in the Gaura Ganadesha Deepika scripture, it mentions Deepika means like Deepa or Diwa, Diwali. Then it mentions there that a lamp which illuminates the associates of Lord Chaitanya. So there he was talking about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya as being Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods. So he was understandably so learned, and on account of that, he was like head pujari of the Jagannath temple. He had a tunnel which goes from his house to the temple. If you ever visit Jagannath Puri, you can see that house, you can see the tunnel. Nobody uses it now, but that was so that people's shadow wouldn't cast on him. The untouchable shadow touched him, then he'd have to go back and take a bath again. So he'd have servants around him with sticks to keep people away so that they wouldn't get contaminated on the way to do puja. So this is the kind of status that was there at that time. But when he became a devotee of Lord Chaitanya, he was actually embracing untouchables in society. He had made no discrimination any longer. He was full of compassion, thinking that everybody is eternal servants of the Lord. So this is our mood also, is that we don't make any distinctions. Of course, sometimes you will make some distinctions. I remember on a couple of occasions on Sankirtan, I got beaten up on the street, and invariably it was with drunken people, generally drunken football supporters coming back from a football match, sometimes because they'd won, sometimes because they lost. It doesn't always make a difference. So I got to realize that Okay, sometimes you do have to make a distinction. You don't want to exclude anybody, but sometimes you have to be a bit smart as well. It's like we think, okay, everybody's a pure devotee, so let me go into the jungle and I'll mix with the lions and the poisonous snakes because they're all jiva. Now, Lord Chaitanya might go through Jarikanda forest and get the tigers and the deers chanting together because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead and all the jivas are eternally related to him, but that's not us. We don't have that potency. So that's we have to use some discrimination. So we use discrimination to see if there's any danger. And at the same time, we do our best not to consider anyone too fallen. Even devotees, out of compassion, sometimes they're going around the shops selling books, raising funds, and they'll go into any place. Just because we're vegetarian doesn't mean to say we won't go into a butcher shop. Just because we don't drink doesn't mean to say we won't go into a pub. Because we were doing all those things as well. And who's to say there's not somebody like us sitting there waiting on one of Prabhupada's books coming? Who are we? I remember in Mayapur, there's one devotee giving a class, and he said that in Kali Yuga, the souls are just sitting there waiting, just rotting there waiting, and when is Lord Chaitanya going to come and save me? So this is what we're doing. We're taking Lord Chaitanya's message from him to them directly in the form of these books, in the form of the holy name. And sometimes they're too fallen to hear the holy name or take a book, but sometimes we can give them prasad. And then they get purified. I had one instance there before, I've mentioned it before. I was in Paisley doing books, and I stopped this lady. She wasn't interested in the book at all, but I happened to have some prasadam with me. I said, "Oh, can you try this sweet? The cooks want us to get an opinion of people, what they think of it." Of course, that was just a way to introduce it. And then so she put it in her mouth, and as soon as she put it in her mouth, she said, "How much is the book?" I've seen that before. So sometimes that's also another way to get through this. Just like Lord Shiva has a trident, so we also have a three-pronged attack, which is books, prasadam, and harinam. So not everybody will stop and take a book, but when we're on the street chanting the holy names, then everybody gets it. Some will come out and they appreciate it and they'll light up. Others will try to hide in the darkness and scurry away. And some people might become envious, like they may resist or retaliate in some way. But you can see that it's actually something which is creating an awakening, a disturbance within their heart. But they want to hold on to that. They want to hold on to that darkness. But still, it's only a matter of time, and it will have an effect. Because underneath it all, then they're all eternally related to the Lord. They're trying to enjoy the Lord separately, but they're trying to enjoy his inferior energy, which is also the Lord. And this is the thing, is they actually can't escape Krishna because everything is Krishna anyway. So sometimes people are looking for some benediction of this material world from the shops in Princess Street or the shops in Buchanan Street. They're looking for a benediction. They've been working all week and they want to spend their money, exchange it for some benediction of a new pair of shoes or a new hat or a bit of cheap jewellery or some object or another or some experience. But it's all fleeting. And at the end of it all, then we don't want to be in a situation where we think, oh, I wish I had used my time for something better. So time is our most valuable commodity. Like Mangalananda would say, how is that? He does a song. You can work hard all day, turn your time into pay, but you leave it behind when you go. So we turn our time into pay. Now, if that's the situation, if we're a householder and we have to work and we have to get paid to keep the house, keep the household and all those duties, etc., that's fine. But our goal is always still Krishna consciousness. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, one cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. So devotees aren't lazy. Devotees are industrious. So either we work for Krishna, or we have to work to maintain a material situation. Either way, we have to work. In Kali Yuga, however, then it's quite normal. People want something for nothing. So therefore, even it's been said that the social security system which has been provided saps the vitality of life. I've seen it in Nepal. There was one old lady, she was picking up dry leaves, and this is social security she had. She'd pick up dry leaves and she'd make cushions out of them. Or people would go and get leaves and make plates out of them. So they get these big leaves, they just grow on trees. You might have known. And this is how they make a living. And she doesn't have any facilities whatsoever except for take the leaves and take a twig from the take the leaves from the tree and take some twig and sew that through the leaf and make plates and then sell them. So therefore, it was always considered by the that the actions of the saintly kings would be to dig wells and plant trees, because this is a natural social security system. I've seen it in Africa as well, that there's fruit trees planted around. You get mango, papaya, jackfruit, other trees, and at certain times people go and pick the fruit and they'll sell them at the side of the road. Now, originally it's meant that people can take fruit from when they're hungry, but then what happens is people get greedy and they think, rather than just taking the fruit because I'm hungry for the day, just like Prabhupada says, if a truck of grain spills in the road, birds will come and take their fill and then go away. Humans will come and fill up cartloads and sackloads and take it away and sell it. They don't just take what they need. So similarly with these fruit trees that are planted, then people would take from them and they'd have a barrow full of stuff and then they'd sell it. And then what would happen, the competition would come to the point where people would want to get to the tree before the other guy got there. So they end up picking all this unripe fruit and selling unripe fruit. And then who knows how far it goes before it starts becoming a war, just over, start what it started off with, rather than just taking what you need for the day to walk past and have something to eat. It's supposed to be there to kind of get you out of a fix where you're starving. And because the leadership is weak, then they don't check these things. They say, what are you doing? You're not paying tax on that. And that's for everybody. You can't be doing this. So they just allow it. Okay, it's time to finish. So the benedictions that the Lord is giving here is a pure devotional service, which is lasting beyond this body. So even if we're not completely perfect, then Krishna will make arrangement. Next life we get to carry on from where we left off without even trying to make an arrangement. He mentions that in Bhagavad Gita, without even any prior arrangement, then simply they will just be attracted automatically to the principles of yoga. And by that we don't mean we walk by a yoga class and think, oh, I remember I used to do yoga in my last life, and we pop out and we stick a leotard on, It's like, okay, here we go again. It's not like that. It actually means that when you start to follow this path of devotional service, if somehow we don't make it perfect, then Krishna will place us in a situation where we get the chance to carry on again. But we should be careful not to be lazy and think, okay, well, I'll just do a bit now and then I'll come back next time, because Krishna also warns in the Bhagavad Gita that one should perceive the evils of birth, death, old age, and disease. It's not a nice thing to always have hanging over your head that I'm going to have to die sometime. So Prabhupada encourages us to make this the last one, and it can be possible. Okay, we'll just stop it there. Any comments or questions? Yes, Prabhupada.
Thank you for a wonderful class. That was funny, very elegant. Myself and we must have on the street doing some distribution. It's better not to discriminate. Some people who are sitting in the homeless or whatever, they'll keep a book, rather than judging a book by its cover, it's trying to do that blanket thing that you mentioned, so that would be something inspirational for today. Is you're planning also to go to Glasgow and do the same.
Yeah, another point of not discriminating is sometimes it's not even the person who reads the book, who gets it, who reads it. You might think, there's an old lady, 80-odd-year-old, hobbling down the street. She won't be interested. She might not be, but her son might be. And that happened. A friend of ours, his mother was in Glasgow and got a 6th canto, and she came back, my son will like that. He's into all that stuff. And then we were all hanging over the book. Whoa, what's this? Oh, Sanskrit. So Krishna will find a way. We just have to get the books out there, and Krishna will make arrangements for the books to go somewhere. That's the main thing. Just get them out. It's Congress Vindiki.